early, making me lose out on money and stuff. They know we don't have PTO. Well, I also have no care at this point. My finances are fine. My new job I need a full suit for. I guess I earned myself an unpaid vacation. I log out. They keep looking smug and leave me with another, "Remember, don't clock in until you've decided to be reasonable." The next day, I don't log in. A few hours later, I get a call screaming about how I'm late and I've caused so many problems. I cut them off saying I'm still not coming in Monday, so per our meeting, I'm not to clock in. Silence. They ask if I'm serious. I ask if they were serious yesterday. They call me a pug-headed fool and tell me to just come in on Monday like they asked. Thought this was a demand. Then they wait a moment and ask if I'm going to grow up and come back in. Well, I'm bored at this point and ask if they're going to pay me my new rate on Monday. I get a confused no, and I tell them they have their answer. They called every day that last week, bouncing between apologies, insults, browbeating, etc., while still always standing on the "you need to come in on Monday." This was a whole week of them, sometimes multiple days, begging me to come in even part of the day to dig them out of holes. But then doubling down that, "if you come in, that does mean that you're coming back all the way through Monday, right?" I'd already dropped off their equipment since I didn't need any of it at this point, even if I did finish my week. They even called on Monday to tell me I was fired for not showing up. I still think they thought I was joking or playing hardball for a promo or raise. It's the only reason I have for all that, or they really thought I'd throw my new job for them. They had a big focus on company loyalty that a lot of people seem to buy into, so maybe they just assumed I'd be loyal. I did hear my old manager had to fill in for me as they couldn't get anyone to do my shift and my jobs, and that now, months later, my manager and several others quit as everything is buckling. They promised more than they could deliver and drove off experienced employees like me. I saw this one in the comment section and I just had to mention it. It says, "You need to come in Monday." No, my last day is Friday. "You better be here on Monday." No, I finish on Thursday. "Please, please, please, we need you here on Monday." No, Wednesday is my final day. "F you, your butt better be here on the dot Monday." Nope, today was my last day. I absolutely love the statement of, "it's against company policy to quit on a Friday." Okay, I'm leaving. You can't dictate what day I quit on. Have a nice day. Bye-bye now. Do me a quick favor and take a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're actually not subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. This next story comes to us from MBXZ7LWB, Programmer Revenge Story. Let's jump right in. I was hired as a temp for this big food distribution company, which will remain nameless for anonymity's sake. The woman's position I was filling in for was going on maternity leave soon. I really needed the job at the time, so I took it, and they promised if I did an amazing job, they'd hire me full-time. I was a raw materials supply distributor. Basically, I ordered supplies and sent them where they needed to go for scientists to make new foods. I have a really strong background in computer programming. After learning how to do the job in a month or so, she had her baby and went on leave. I completely automated this woman's job in a matter of weeks, using only Excel and PowerShell. I didn't say a word until the end of my last few weeks, where I basically did very little in the time leading up to her return. I added in a few updates for changes in workflows and verified all the data was correct at the end of the day after it ran, but that was all I really did. I asked for more work from my boss, which led me to fill in on the production line, a path I did not want to take. Towards the last few weeks of my temp period, the woman returned from maternity leave. I showed her what I had done. Her jaw had about hit the floor in awe that I had made all the hard work she was doing for years be completed by a computer program in a few minutes every day. In our next team meeting, it was brought up that I would need to get everyone online with this program before my temp period was up. Ding, ding, ding went off in my head that they are not planning on keeping me with that idiotic comment, so I obliged and got everyone on board. Unbeknownst to them, I put in a clause in the PowerShell script with a ClicksML encryption locally to the PC I was using. It grabs a specific encrypted date a few weeks out from my termination date and would just stop working after that date, or once they had wiped my local folder on the PC, or just simply not having the PC on. If they had decided to keep me, I could just turn it off and no one would have been the wiser. I added this snippet to every if statement and for loop possible with a new variable every time, thanks PowerShell, in the code, so that if someone was to go through it to try and fix it, it would be a nightmare to fix if they had the audacity to, with identifying and renaming every variable and clause and regenerating the ClicksML. So, as you can imagine, I was not offered a full-time position for said company, and when I had mentioned the comments when I first started for doing an amazing job, which I believe I had fit the criteria for doing so, my boss said that with SAP coming into the production team next week, my expertise would not be needed. A month or so later, I got a text from my old boss saying that he needed to talk to me about that program I wrote. It was 2 days after my magic shutoff date. I knew exactly what the call was about and never returned the call, as I had a better job offer already lined up. I feel if I had returned the call, I wouldn't be able to stop laughing during the conversation of troubleshooting. OP, I feel like a golden opportunity has been missed, and we see this so often in stories like this. When the company calls you back and says, hey, we have a problem with this code that you wrote, you mention to them, well, there was nothing in my work contract about ownership of code, so if you want me to come in and fix that, here's my consulting rates. They're about 3 times higher than what you were paying me before. I hope to hear back from you soon. This next story comes to us from 5-7. You must give 2 weeks notice. Let's jump right in. I'm an IT guy and many years ago took up a job for a smallish company as their one-stop shop. It was basically the first job I talked to, and I took it because it was right down the street and allowed remote work. The pay was nothing to write home about, but I essentially had no boss and made my own hours, so it was worth it. Well, right up the front, they started making weird demands. We want someone who's going to commit to working with us for a long time, say 5 years. Also, if you quit, we want 2 weeks notice. They must have been burned because they kept repeating these things verbally, not written anywhere, so I didn't put a ton of stock in them, but I did agree. Time goes on and it's the same old story. Raises are essentially non-existent. I'm generally pretty adept at anything I try my hand at, technologically speaking, so I start getting pulled into additional areas of responsibility without any additional pay. My workload goes up. Inflation keeps rising, but each year my raises are pushed off until next year when we make more profit. Even though I was able to demonstrate with hard figures that I was saving the company significant money and significantly reduced downtime, it wasn't rewarded appropriately. Meanwhile, I watched the owners go off to various beaches for 2-week vacations. Well, 6 weeks out from my 5-year anniversary, I get poached by another company with a significant pay bump and less responsibility. I thought about giving them the advance notice, but ultimately what made me stick to their policy of 5 years with 2 weeks notice was some disrespectful conversations the owner had with me. I don't need to go into detail, but essentially, rather than professionally disagreeing over how some things were handled, he outright disrespected me. Additionally, I watched multiple 15 and 20-year career employees terminated with 0 notice. The notice courtesy didn't extend both ways. Okay, fine. Then you can have your 5 years and 2 weeks notice. I waited 4 weeks after accepting my position with the new company before I told them. I gave my notice and they start scrambling. In that company, it takes 2 weeks to make a simple decision, let alone hire a competent replacement for something important like an IT guy. They opt to go with a managed service provider, a company that provides IT services rather than a single person like they had for decades. Given my experience with the owner and his personality, I knew this would not go well. I had prepared boatloads of documentation for all the systems and tried to turn it over to the MSP. They didn't want it, claimed it would be unreliable and their systems could gather all the information they needed. I was there for 3 days while the MSP was gathering information and they barely spoke to me. Okay, good luck, I said, as I gathered up all my documentation and took it with me on my last day. The owner grabs me on the way out. What would it take to get you to stay? How much do you want? Just name your price. Nope, I learned my lesson. If they don't pay you raises without the threat of leaving, then they don't value you, and they'll just use you as a stopgap while they find and train someone cheaper. The week after I quit, I start getting calls. They tried to replace hardware